Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Dethroning Your Inner Critic YouTube channel. So today I want to talk about the 4 steps to rewire your mind. So for those of you that don't know me, I am Joanna Kleinman, licensed psychotherapist, best-selling author of the book Dethroning Your Inner Critic, the 4-step journey from self-doubt to self-empowerment, the host of the Dethroning Your Inner Critic podcast, international speaker, retreat leader, and creator of the Mind Method and the Mastering Your Mind program and community. So essentially, what I'm talking about when I say rewiring your mind is doing the work to heal your automatic subconscious mind. That's the mind I call your inner critic. Some of you might call it ego or monkey mind or false self. And whatever you call it, if you commit to the work of healing this part of your mind and the personality and identity that you've developed as a result of that mind, you will have life-changing transformations. So if you're someone who feels stuck in some area of your life, or if your life doesn't feel joyful, or if you're feeling unfulfilled in your career or work, or if you're unfulfilled in your relationship, or if you feel like there's something missing in your life, or some part of your life doesn't match what you want it to be, chances are that the practice of healing your automatic mind could be the very thing that would alter the life that you're living. But let's be clear, this is an ongoing practice. So I created the Mind Method, which is a 4-step practice, to be the practice of unhooking yourself from your subconscious mind to design a different life. It's made up of 4 steps, but the 4 steps are to be practiced ongoingly for forever. So when I say rewiring your mind, I'm really talking about an ongoing shift in consciousness. And you can only shift your consciousness through repetition. So sometimes practicing the Mind Method can be incredibly frustrating because your inner critic will definitely resist any kind of change because change equals uncertainty. And our inner critic mind hates the unknown, the unpredictable, or the uncertain. So the most important thing in your life while practicing the Mind Method is to stay patient and do the work daily. If you can observe your resistance to this work with a neutral, non-judgmental centeredness, that's exactly how you will grow. So to understand all of this work, we have to understand where our inner critic comes from. So your inner critic mind is essentially the automatic and unconscious part of your mind. It determines how you automatically see yourself, how you see others, how you see the world around you, how you see what your life is supposed to be, according to your automatic mind, okay? It's the part of your mind that identifies with certain traits and beliefs and habits. And this is the part of your mind that was formed in early childhood. See, when we first come into the world, we have no identity. I mean, our level of consciousness is just pure awareness. And at that point, our minds are unconditioned, unprogrammed. But once we're old enough to try to make sense of the world around us, we all erroneously believe that everything that happens in our small world around us is because of us. We don't have the ability to observe outside of ourselves and have that abstract thinking until we are adolescents. So remember, one of our greatest needs as human beings is to receive love. But during our early childhood, it's very easy for us to experience emotional disconnection and to experience a perceived loss of love, because as children, we're susceptible to what's called cognitive distortions. And that means that we make something personal about us when it's actually not personal. So when we believe that what we are experiencing means to be a loss of love, right? Like we think our sister is the favorite, or we're picked last for the playground kickball game. That's incredibly painful when we're children. So to cope with this pain we feel as a result, we begin to develop an identity to try to protect ourselves. And this is the identity that gets developed, and it is very rigid with set beliefs, set habits, set patterns of thoughts and emotions and behaviors. And that is the basis of our personality. Now, our inner critic is very defensive against this identity. So we still take other people's actions personally, and we reject anything that goes against this identity. So when we're triggered, it's because essentially we're rejecting anything that someone else says or does that contradicts our identity. So I do the work of the mind method to return myself to my true nature, my authentic self. Because if I'm not doing that work, I'm functioning day in and day out, both in my professional life and my personal life, in patterns that I didn't choose. They're just automatic, and they get in the way of my power, my freedom, my experience of joy and fulfillment and peace, and the abundance of connection and love and joy and money that I can make in my life. So those inner critic patterns have been there to protect me from pain since I was a small child, to help me cope with the pain of perceived loss of love and value. Now, I can't get rid of those patterns, and neither can you. You can't get rid of the patterns that are currently getting in the way of having all that you want in any area of your life. But you can understand that your inner critic is something that is separate from yourself. See, once you start to bring conscious awareness or extreme attention to your inner critic self, now you become the observer of her. You become someone who has the ability to view all of the different parts of yourself. And that is what gives you tremendous power, because now you have the ability to interrupt all of your old patterns. You can bear witness to those automatic thoughts and beliefs and emotions and behaviors. And when you can take different actions in your life because you're interrupting those patterns, that's how you change the direction of how your life is going to unfold. So if we aren't doing this conscious work, our inner critic will constantly be on guard and looking for someone or something that it perceives to be causing potential emotional pain. Because remember, this is the identity you've had for your whole life. This is the identity that will keep creating those same patterns. This is the identity that will put a lid on your potential. So by doing this work, you develop the ability to decide how you're going to think and feel and respond and believe, rather than letting your inner critic decide. And over time, this is the very thing that rewires your mind, because you're witnessing yourself detaching from your inner critic mind. And with those new thoughts and new emotions and new beliefs and new responses, you actually allow for new experience to come into your awareness and into your life. So here are the 4 steps of the mind method. So step 1, the M step, is meet your inner critic. And this is allowing your inner critic to introduce itself to you. See, until this point, you might mostly be unaware that you have an inner critic mind. And so your inner critic is ruling your life about 95% of the time. It's pretty mind-blowing. So gone unchecked for most of your life, you might have a very strong inner critic who shows up a lot. So only through getting to meet her and become so intimately familiar with her can you soften her grip. So softening your inner critic's grip is what creates a state of inner peace. But your inner critic doesn't like to be observed. She likes to be in control. So this can be very uncomfortable work. And this is why it's important to be patient with yourself and to practice this step every day. Now, I recommend first thing in the morning when you first wake up, it could be 5 minutes. Find a quiet place with no distractions and write down all of the thoughts your inner critic uses to try and keep you safe. Then after you've created this list, read the list to yourself, and with each phrase that your inner critic says, with each thought, ask yourself, is this a fact or is this my inner critic's story? And likely the answer to all of those thoughts will be, it is not a fact. It is your inner critic's story. Now, step 2, the I step, is to investigate the indication signs. So in this step, you intentionally feel the sensations in your body. You observe your racing and rambling thoughts. That is the blinking red signal that your inner critic has been triggered. So the indication signs can be body sensations. It can be an emotion. It can be a dysfunctional behavior. Now, our first instinct is to resist and run from uncomfortable sensations in our body and uncomfortable emotions in our heart. But if we can train ourselves to sit in them, to not try and run from them or numb them or distract them away, we can learn a great deal about how to spot our inner critic identity the moment we're triggered. And we can use this knowledge to unhook ourselves from that inner critic identity so that we don't cause problems in our professional life and in our personal life. So investigating the indication signs helps you spot those blinking red lights. That alerts you that it's your inner critic that's back in control. Now, step 3 is to neutralize the never-ending message. Okay, now, our inner critics are master storytellers. This is really important. So where does the story come from? So my inner critic, just like your inner critic, has kept a log of thousands of emotional events and experiences, many of which we don't even consciously remember. So within this unconscious log is a never-ending message. My inner critic's never-ending message is that I'm not worthy of respect and love, right? So in my day-to-day interactions, if somebody says something that triggers me or does something that triggers me, my inner critic will say I'm unworthy. And I don't even recognize that dialogue is going through my mind. I just know that I'm triggered and I'm angry. So when our inner critic tells the same story again, she's actually trying to protect us from that perceived pain. She gets defensive. But the never-ending message is always keeping us tied to our past experiences. right? So I think I'm being triggered by something that's showing up now, really just being triggered to something that started in my past. Now, I would suggest giving your inner critic a name that fits. Mine is Worrying Wilhelmina, because my inner critic loves to worry. So this is how you identify your triggered inner critic, so that every time she shows up in those areas of life where she tends to wreak havoc, you know it's her, not you. You can actually call her by her name. I say, "Hi, Wilhelmina." You can actually appreciate your inner critic for trying to protect you from feeling that pain. And you know you're triggered into your never-ending message when you have an emotional response that's not equivalent to the event or the circumstance that's right in front of you. The last step, step 4, the D step, is design your life. So I want to design a life where I'm proud of myself for creating transformation in my own life and in the lives of everyone who engages in the mind method. I want to live a life where I am fulfilled and I expect for great things to continue to unfold. That's exactly what I want for you, because I believe that when we all know how to rewire our minds, we're going to be living in a different world. And that will happen when we know how to consciously continue to grow and remain centered in love and connection. So with the daily practice of the mind method, we can step into a rewired mind where we know that we are worthy of an abundance of growth and love and connection and joy and respect. When I'm rooted in that mind, I no longer attach the meaning of unworthiness to events and circumstances or people's judgments or opinions or behaviors. So by practicing the mind method every day, you can transform every part of your life. That's exactly what I want for you. So thanks for watching. And for more transformational tools and tips, hit the subscribe button.